Alright, today we're going to do this job hauling scrap metal back down to the steel mill. So step one, we're going to run back over to our engine and then we'll talk about what the game plan is. So before we get going here, one thing that's different about this job compared to the previous ones is that so far, every time we've been running a haul, we've been just keeping going down the line as far as the direction of travel that our engine was already pointed in. This time, we want to go from the manufacturing town back towards the steel mill where we first started. So really, we kind of want to go in reverse. Now, we could run the train in reverse the whole way down to the steel mill, but that's really annoying. Poor visibility. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the fact that there's a Y that connects sections D and E. And if we make the right maneuver through that Y, we can use it to turn the engine 180 degrees, and we'll be pointing in the opposite direction. So that's what we're going to do first before we hook up to the cars. Just like normal, of course, we're going to release the handbrake. We're going to start up the motors here. We're going to make sure the brake pipe is engaged. We're going to make sure the brakes are released. We have the lights set up correctly, and we should be good to pull away here. So step one is get out to the other end of this yard, and then we can back into that Y. And as we pull away here, B2O is where our load is, so it should be right over there. It's just a matter of first getting ourselves turned around, and then we want to go back over to that track over there. Alright, so we're approaching the final junction of the manufacturing town right up here. So once we get through that junction, we need to flip that so we go back down this main track. And then we need to take this junction to the right here, and that should get us into that Y. So once we start backing up into that, that'll get us turned around. And of course we flip the lights in the opposite direction to indicate that we're now going to be moving in that direction. Now we definitely don't want to be going too fast here, because at the end of this Y is section E, which is the military section of the station. And I happen to know, having just driven by them, that the military sections all have some kind of, stop post, I guess, for, for someone to check that you have military ID or whatever. So we can't run too far, because we don't want to run into that. And there's that buffer I was talking about. And as you can see, it's really not far past this junction. So I guess I didn't do my homework on figuring out exactly how far from the buffer this junction actually is. I think there's just barely enough room we're going to fit. I'm not confident we could have done this with one of the longer engines without causing trouble. So But this is good. We'll stop just as soon as we're clear of this switch here. And with that done, we can now flip that switch and move in the opposite direction again. And now this will get us over to section D, but importantly, as you'll notice now, as we enter section D, we are moving in the opposite direction, right? So we're head first towards the steel mill at this point. We'll run through section D, back out to the opposite end of the station, and then we can back up into B to get our load. So yeah, we pull through section D here now. Interestingly, section D, as you'll notice off to my right there, is a passenger station. There's a couple of passenger stations around the map here in Derail Valley, but you can't actually haul passengers. I think there's probably plans to add some kind of passenger transport in the future. I don't, it's not like I know, but I'm speculating that it would be weird to have passenger stations everywhere for no reason at all. So hopefully one day we'll be able to bring some passengers around with us as well. And then we won't feel all alone in this vast, empty world. And just as we're driving by here, I am noting that there are a couple of other engines available over there in the roundhouse. So it's always good to know, right, where there are other engines in the world. You never know where you're going to need them, right? If we accidentally derail or something, we might need to make use of one of those to undo that. Or just if we ever want to swap out, if we get a license for one of those other engine types, it's good to know where you might find them. So definitely, just worth keeping an eye out in the world as you travel around where you might find some engines. All right, so we're coming up to the opposite end here of the manufacturing town. So as soon as we clear the switch right here, we want to then stop the train and back it up. So we're starting to slow down here. All right, so we're ready to back up into section B at this point. I am noting, as we're doing this, that it has started getting foggy, so that'll definitely make it a little more interesting because our visibility is going to be way lower. And, in low visibility, definitely don't want to go too fast. You don't want to accidentally hit something you didn't see. So, but yeah, we're going to section B at this point, B20, and we will hook up to our scrap cars. Alright, so as we back into section B here at this point, track 2O should be the second from our far left, so we've adjusted the switches correctly, but again, given the fog, it's always worth take it slow, be gentle, because, you know, if there's something on that track that you didn't expect to be there or something, last thing I want to do is accidentally cause an accident. So we're going to take it nice and slow here and pull into track B20 to get our scrap. All right, we have our scrap cars in sight. I'm killing the engine, again, just to, you know, save on fuel. You don't want to waste that when you don't need to. And by the time we get over there, we first need to couple up and make sure we're good to go. So I always like to kill the engine if I know I'm not going to need it for a while. That might be a little overkill, but you do get dinged for any amount of fuel you use. You do get to pay for that. So the less fuel I can use, the better. All right, a nice and gentle stop. We're gonna set the handbrake as usual, just setting everything back in a good default state. And we're gonna get outside. We're gonna get this load hooked up, and then we should be ready to make some progress. So just make sure this is in fact the right car. You know, again, maybe overkill, but I like to check. So yep, 901. That's definitely one of the cars in our load. Go ahead and hook up here. Get the air hose, make sure those valves are open, and we can hear the air rushing into the cars, pressurizing the brakes. That's great. And we have all 4 cars here as we expect. Yep. Okay, so release the handbrake, and now this load is ready to go. All right, we're back in the cab, confirming we're going to the steel mill, so that all looks good. Let's get this engine set up, release the handbrake, get the engine started here. There we go. All right, release the brakes, get the lights set up, get the reverser in forward. Yep, that's set correctly. Cool. All right, so we're good to go. We'll get a little bit of throttle here. This is a pretty heavy load, so we're starting pretty slowly, but we are getting there. Okay, so taking a quick peek at the compass here, we are in fact moving south. And looking at the map here, in the past, going over by City West would have been the only way for us to get to the sawmill, really, but they added a new piece of track that connects the central forest to this piece of mainline here. So I think, you know, just for the sake of exploration, we're going to take that route today. That's something new to try. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the wipers here because I feel like in the fog they're really not doing anything besides making an annoying voice. And we're going to start giving this a little more throttle. Let's, you know, get a little bit of speed built up. Again, it is foggy, so I don't want to go too fast. I want to make sure that I can see what's happening, but a bit more speed definitely wouldn't hurt. And you can turn up the headlights. You can see here the switch has multiple positions. Again, it seems like it's not really helping in the fog. In the darkness of night, it does help. It gives you kind of like a high beam, you know, so you can see better. But it's really not helping me here in the fog. So I guess we're just gonna roll with that and deal with it. starting to pick up a bit of speed here. We're going just about 20 kilometers an hour. And this is the switch, the south switch out of the manufacturing town station. So at this point, we're on the main line. We're going south. The next place we're going to be dropping by is the coal power plant. And the limit currently is 90. We're definitely not going to go anywhere near 90 in this fog. I don't feel comfortable with not being able to see, but we'll pick up some speed and we're just going to keep going down the line here for now. Alright, so I'm idling here at 40. That feels about good, especially because we're now on a little bit of a downhill. I don't think I want to go too crazy. I want to make sure I can manage the speed here. So coming up to about 50 here, that feels pretty good. Definitely want to use some of that brake just to make sure I don't go too fast. You know, again, realistically, there shouldn't be anything on the track, right? Because we're the only player in Derail Valley. And the switches at the coal power plant should be set back exactly the way I came, which was up the main line, so I should be good. There's no particular reason to fear that anything is going to go wrong, but I just don't feel comfortable, you know? That's I guess it's about kind of just trying to keep it somewhat realistic as far as your behavior. Okay, so we're passing the coal power plant here now. That switch, again, is set, sure enough, to the left. That's the way we came from. So at this point, again, we're going downhill. We're going to go to that junction where if we steer towards the right, we'd go to City West. And that's where we came from. But this time we want to stick left, and that'll take us up that main line that kind of goes through the center of the map. Alright, I managed to locate and reach that switch through the fog. That was pretty cool. And limit is 50 here on this piece of track. We definitely have a little bit of a downhill grade, right? You can see that track that was veering off on the right is definitely a lot higher than we are even at this point. So we're doing pretty good. Just want to keep that speed manageable as we go up towards Forest Center there. Up this piece of track, and then we'll take a right as we get to that junction up there. And I gotta say, especially as we're passing over this bridge, that dense fog is just crazy, right? I mean, I can't see any more than like 1 or 2 engine lengths ahead of me, so I would really not be able to stop in time if there was something ahead of us. Again, fortunately, this is Derail Valley, and I guess unless I have left a bunch of cars on the track or something, that's not going to happen, but if this was real life, I would feel very nervous about the visibility here. So we get a little bit of an uphill grade here, so I'm going to add a little bit of throttle just to make sure we don't stall. But having looked at the map, I feel like we should be getting pretty close to that junction, so I also want to make sure we don't overshoot that. So definitely want to keep an eye out for the junction and changes in speed limit like that one. Alright, so 0.2 kilometers to our junction. That is right around the corner. Definitely want to make sure, keep an eye out again, right? The fog is making it hard to see, but we should have that junction come up right around up here pretty soon. Alright, so we are off on this new section of track here, and we have a very significant uphill grade, so going into this forest, we're definitely going to want to make sure we don't repeat the fun time we had down at the sawmill. I'm going to give it a little bit of throttle here and try to keep us moving. Might need a little bit more throttle. Yeah, we're struggling, but we're still moving, so let's give it a little bit of sand as well, and we'll see if we can make it up there to the forest. Alright, we made it through the worst part of that. The gradient has dropped down and we are starting to gain speed, so that is good news. As we continue through this tunnel, I'm noticing the speed drop down to 30 up ahead. That probably means we're about to head into the Forest Central Station, so the only job here is we need to make sure as we go through this B section that we go through that middle track there that's unlabeled. Unlabeled means it's not an inbound or an outbound or a storage track, so it's not actually used as part of the station, so it should be clear and we should be able to just go right through. Alright, light at the end of the tunnel. So welcome to Central Forest here. This time we're just going to be running through here. We'll probably come back at some point, you know, pick up a job or something here. But for now, we're just trying to make our way through. We don't want to go too fast because this is a station and we need to make sure we have all the tracks set up correctly so that we don't cause an accident. So I want to take it nice and gentle through here and make sure we don't cause any trouble. Alright, switches are set correctly. Still, it feels so eerie, you know, with the fog. Like, you don't know that there's nothing right ahead of you. So even though there shouldn't be, I don't know, it just feels scary. But we're going to move on through, and now we're going down this bendy piece of track. Past our house, actually. We do have a house in Derail Valley. We're going to go past our house and down past the farm. So that's the next leg of this journey. And this twisty track here between the forest and our home does have a little bit of a gradient as well, so definitely want to keep on top of our speed and make sure we don't, again, accidentally stall. So it's both twisty and a little bit uphilly. We want to make sure that we do a good job here. Alright, we made it up the hill here. The gradient is starting to level off, and that track right there on your left, as you look ahead, that is the track that goes to our front door. So if you ever want to visit your home in Derail Valley, that is where you'd go. Now, as we're starting to approach our destination at the steel mill here, if we look at this order again, track A6I is where we're trying to go. So A6I, that's this track right here on the map, which means we need to go through the B section and then back up into A6I. So that's the game plan here going forward. Now, to get to the farm, we first have a junction that goes left here. That's also a new junction. It used to be that this track would only go down to the farm, but now you can go right in this junction, and that'll get you towards the central oil well instead. So that's new, but we're gonna keep going left and go past the farm over to the steel mill. Now at this point, the piece of track to the farm turns into a downhill, and it's a pretty steep downhill, and there's a pretty tight turn here, so you definitely got to be very careful with your speed. Last thing we want to do is derail right here, so we're just going to be managing our speed very carefully as we make our way down to the farm. All right, we've done a good job keeping our speed in check, and we're right around here at the junction where the farm track, that's the one that's off on our right, joins up with the track from our downhill. So right up ahead here is a bridge across the river, and after that bridge, immediately after that bridge, there's another junction where we will be turning left towards the steel mill. So just need to make sure that we have all those tracks set correctly, and then we will be at the steel mill. So we're almost there, approaching our destination. I would really love for this fog to disappear at some point, because it's just eerie to not be able to see anything, especially the junction markers, right? As you're coming up to them, it's hard to tell. Now, there is a new license in build 99 of Derail Valley that we haven't unlocked yet, but that license allows us to set the switches remotely using the alternate map, the route map that I put away in my inventory a little while ago. Once we get that license, we can just open up the route map and look at all the switches, how they're set, and set them correctly. And that'll be great, right? Because that means we can kind of pre-plan our route and set all the switches, and then we don't have to worry, like we're doing right now, you know, at speed, whether each switch ahead of us is set correctly or not, because it's a little nerve-wracking that, you know, as you're coming up on the switch, you really need to be fast and make sure you get that switch before you drive past it, right? So it kind of limits what you can do as far as speed, because you're always worried that you can't go so fast that you can't react in time. So definitely look forward to getting that license, but we don't have it yet. Alright, so again, we're going through the B section right now. We need to come out the other end of the B section, and there'll be that junction past the B section that lets us get into all the other A tracks, and that's where we need to go. So there's a station house. You might remember that from the very beginning. We're finally back at the steel mill. It only took us how many hours? I haven't been counting, but it feels like such a short time, and yet I'm sure it's been at least a few hours since we've been here. So anyway, here's that junction. We just need to get just barely past it, and then we will be backing up towards A6I. I'm just trying to tell if we're actually clear of the junction. I find it very difficult to tell from, you know, when you have a fairly long load of cars behind you. I find it really difficult just with the perspective and the angle to actually tell how far we are and how much further we have to go. So I don't know if that's just me. Maybe I'm just terrible at perspective, but for me, I find that pretty difficult. Anyway, so we're going to back up now. We're going to flip that switch, go past the next one, and then we need to go turn right there. So we're going to start backing up now. It's going to be 2 lefts and then a right to get towards where we need to go. And with this load being as heavy as it is, and there's a slight uphill here as we're now trying to back up, we're backing into an uphill. So got to be a little bit careful with that throttle to not cause any wheel slip. But it looks like we got it, so there we are, backing up into the track now. Alright, definitely nice and steady on the speed now, and it does look like we were in fact clear of that junction because we're backing up into it now, so that is good. Now that next junction again, there we need to keep left, which is what that junction is currently set to, so that's good, and then the one after it we need to turn right. This first junction will get you into track A7L, and we're going for A6I, so that would be the next track over. So we're going to take a right at that junction, and then as we get up to that storage building over there, there's another junction that switches between tracks 5 and 6. So we want to make sure we take a right at that one as well. And that should be everything we need. So now we just want to nice and gentle get over there and park this up. Slowing it down a little bit here just so we don't, hit that buffer violently. It is a pretty heavy load, so there's a lot of mass moving here. So we definitely want to start slowing down, way earlier than you think you need to make sure that you actually make it down to a decent speed in time. Everything else is looking good here. So I'm just nice and gentle. I don't want to slow down too far, so we're crawling in there because then we'll be sitting here all day. But I also don't want to go too fast because I don't want to risk any violence between the car and the buffer. Alright, this feels like a good place to call it. So again, just shutting the engine down as usual, making sure everything is set as far as brakes and everything being turned off, and the reverser is in neutral. Alright, so everything in this engine is back to its default state. And like usual, now we need to go set the handbrake here on the car and go uncouple both the air hose and the coupler. And that is it. Job done. I'm just going to run over to the station real quick and we can hand in this job. All right, we're back at the station building. Just going to hand in the job here. Boom. 38 minutes, well within the 75-minute time bonus. So that is it for today. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time.